Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I am your host as usual, and obviously, welcome back to the show. Today's episode 171 of the show. And before we get started, I'm going to do a bit of house cleaning quick because, well, you guys know I like to do it around here, and it only makes sense that we do it. So let's get on with the house cleaning. I will say this right now. This isn't my first time trying to record this episode. We literally ran into some technical difficulties while trying to record it, and it really sucked that we ran into these issues. So this is the reason why we can't have a video version today. Either way, there's still going to be video clips or I wouldn't say video clips, but more of screenshots shown for the video version because it adds a little bit more context to what's going on. But I do want to say thank you guys for being patient with me, especially like after everything that's going on right now, like, you know, finishing up finals and then as a CA getting everything ready, or, you know, if your college calls it an RA, we call it a CA because we're weird. But you know, getting everything ready for move out and helping residents move out, and then, you know, dealing with everything, getting ready for my internship for the summer. It's just crazy. It's hectic. And, you know, I kind of like doing all the audio version because to me, well, it's how we started. And at the same time, it's just very relaxing because I'm so comfortable, whether I'm behind the camera or off camera. I like talking to my microphone anyways, like, you know, granted, because I use all my audio equipment for Discord calls and stuff like that, but I'm just comfortable doing it. So I know I'm rambling a little bit and I'm probably wasting your guys' time, but let's get on with the house cleaning. So I do want to say thank you guys for coming back and listening. It really does mean a lot to me, whether you download these episodes, whether you share these episodes, because you're constantly always letting me know how you feel about them, whether you like the episode or you don't like the episode, whether you like the discussion, you don't like it, or you just like a lot of the slice of life episodes that we do, like the real talks. But to me, it really means a lot to me that you guys appreciate these episodes, especially because you've helped us get over 2,400 total downloads. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. I think right now we're like at 2,433, so almost there to 2,500. And that's halfway of the goal to getting 3,000 by the end of the year, hopefully by the 3-year anniversary, which, as I mentioned before, I did this episode before, and it's crazy to think that we're almost close to 3 years of doing this show. It's almost crazy that we're almost halfway done with this year to begin with. So I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Hopefully we can hit that goal and let's see what happens. I also want to say thank you to the Patreon backers. You guys are great. I really appreciate you all because you guys have constantly supported me. You constantly let me know how you feel about the episodes, whether you like them, you don't like them. Granted, the Patreon backers, you guys also support me a little bit financially because you donate a couple bucks here and there every month, and I really appreciate it. If you want to become a Patreon backer, though, it's $2 just to support me, and that's pretty much it. You just give me $2 every month. Or in the sense of, if you want to become a $5 Patreon backer, then you actually get more incentives because you become a Patreon backer, you support me financially, and then you also get early access to the episodes. So if you want to become a Patreon backer, you can click the link down below and let me know what you guys think. But I do want to say thank you guys for everything. You guys are great. You guys are wonderful, and I really appreciate it. And, what could I really do without you guys? Because you guys you guys get a voice in the matter because you guys get to vote on the topics and everything. So I greatly appreciate it. But now it is time we get on with the episode because we have a good amount to talk about. So what are we talking about today? So Jon Prosser has graciously blessed us with some more juicy leaks, and I will preference this right now. These are leaks. These are not 100% confirmed. Do not treat this as 100% confirmed because I know there's a lot of YouTubers that are going to put it as clickbait that try to say, oh, it's confirmed. And it's like, dude, it's clickbait. It's, they're just leaks. They're not 100%. These things could be totally right or totally wrong. We don't know, but it's fair that we talk about them, especially because of the accuracy that Jon Prosser has when it comes to leaking. And I'm going to be leaving a link down below to Jon's video so you guys can, watch his commentary on it because I know Jon has his own takes regarding the matter. But I do want to talk about them because to me they're very interesting, but at the same time I also have my concerns with them. And I know I'm going to be, in the minority here because there's a specific opinion that I have that many people might not like. So let's talk about it. So what exactly did Jon leak? So he leaked the M2 MacBook Air. Granted, the naming could still be up to debate. We don't know if this is a MacBook Air. We don't know if it's a MacBook Pro. Based on the port selection, it seems like it's going to be a MacBook Air. And also, if you're watching the video version on YouTube, you're going to be seeing all the leaks that I talk about because they'll just be running in the background as I talk over them. But essentially what's going on is, yes, we are getting multicolor MacBooks, which makes sense, especially given that Apple has now released colorful iMacs again. So it only makes sense that the MacBook Air, or whatever this MacBook is, makes sense that they're going to add colors again, because it seems like a very popular trend because people like them. Like, a lot of people wanted colors, or at least variety. Same thing with the iPads, like the iPad Air, where the iPad Air had colors. And Apple was like, hey, let's do this with the iMacs. Let's do these with the MacBook Air at this point. So it's like, hey, I like it. One thing I don't like, though, as you start to see through the leaks, is I really don't like the white bezel design. I think it's just, I don't like, I get it. It's a change of pace, especially given that, you know, Apple has always been more traditional with black bezels, and black bezels tend to be a little bit more eye-pleasing than white bezels. But I get why they did the white bezels, because they're trying to be consistent with their design language, given that, you know, the iMac has white bezels, the, you know, what's it called, like the keyboards that they're coming out with, like for the iPad Pro, the new Magic Keyboard is white, you know, also on the new keyboards as well, like for the iMac, and even the keyboards in the leaks, they're white as well. So it only makes sense that they try to keep the design language very consistent, which I applaud them for being consistent. There's a lot of people, or I'd say a lot of companies, that aren't very consistent when it comes to design language, but I do give Apple at least some credit that, hey, at least you're being consistent, you're not being inconsistent. It's just, I don't really like the white bezels. Like, a lot of concerns people have is, like, with white anything, is white gets dirty super easily. And if you're a sneakerhead, you know what I'm talking about. If you have white shoes, they are a pain in the ass to clean. And that's just facts. No matter. White is just a very difficult thing to keep clean. Like white outfits, white shirts, white pants, white joggers, white chart, whatever you have white, it's going to get yellow eventually. And that's why people don't like, because it's just a pain in the ass to keep clean. Granted, people have talked about how Apple has always had this anti-fingerprint coating on their keyboard, so it's going to be fine. But I'm like, it's still white, because let's be honest, whether you like it or not, white gets dirty and becomes yellow no matter what you do, my friend. It will always, that's just how it happens. It will get dirty, and you just have to be more mindful of it. And I think that's another reason why people don't like. It's just the white bezel. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just, you know, I prefer the black bezels, because it's not as jarring as the white bezels. Now, another thing that we've also seen using these leaks as well is that we see that the laptop has become much thinner, because as you can clearly see, it shows the design is as thin as the USB-C port. So basically, the USB-C port on each side is essentially how thick the laptop is going to be. And here's my concern with it. I appreciate that Apple has been, you know, focusing on design and focusing on portability, and, you know, talking about the iPad, not even the iPad. Well, the iPads too are part of the problem, but in the sense of the MacBook Air, always trying to make it lighter. And I get it. That's the whole point. It's supposed to be a light and powerful laptop. The problem that I have with it, and it's the same thing that goes with Apple's design language, is they try to focus on aesthetics rather than focusing on practicality, rather than it actually being practical. And yes, I do appreciate that the iPads became much sleeker and things like that. However, it doesn't mean that they don't become less durable. Well, it's questionable that they become less durable throughout the time that you own them. But it's also concerning because, like, why are you trying to make this thinner? Like, there's no need to make this thinner. People are okay with chunkier, a little bit chunkier, as long as they're not like 5+ pounds. Like, people are okay with 3-pound laptops, like 2 pound, like 3 pounds is fine. I think, but honestly, 3 pounds is the sweet spot for me. And it's just like, why are you trying to make these things thinner? I get it. You want to push people towards dongle life. And I think it's cool that in the leaks, you can clearly see that they're being smart with the USB-C placement, putting one on each side so you can charge the laptop whichever side you want. I just don't think it's smart because it still goes back to the dongle life being stupid. I'd rather have more ports on my laptop, because if my laptop is going to be my machine that I'm going to carry around with me everywhere, I'd rather it have the ports necessary to do the job. Like, I've said this multiple times and I've seen it in person. The Asus ROG G14, I think that laptop, in terms of portability and power, is a great value because it's not a heavy laptop. It has great power and it still keeps all the ports, and it's not overly bulky. It's not like, it's not heavy like those traditional like 5 to 10 pound gaming laptops. And I still think Apple should have been smart and listened to their consumers, or I'd say even not even the prosumers, but just people in general, like actual smart consumers, and add ports back. Like, why should I continue to give up ports to have something that just looks nicer? It's like, there's no logical sense in it. And it's just like, but they still get away with it because Apple. But I know people are going to get mad because like, oh, Josh, why are you complaining about the thinness of the laptop? And I'm like, because it's stupid. I get it. It's the first big redesign we've had of the MacBooks in a while, but still, it's just, why? There's no benefit. These things weren't even heavy to begin with. Like, why? Why make these things lighter? You get what I mean? Like, these things were already light to begin with. Why would you make these things lighter? Like, there's no benefit. And I'm worried about battery life as well, because I'm like, well, if this thing's gonna become thinner, does that mean the battery's gonna be smaller? And I'm just like, I really, really hope that it doesn't. Like, I really hope they figure this out, to be honest, because I don't think being this thin is a good idea. I don't. That's just my opinion. I don't think it being. And I think it's also interesting too, if you look at the design language as well, that it's starting to become like traditional, like the more square, like hard round off, like the way that Apple is designing everything, like the new iPhones or the iPads, that they're becoming more square and boxy like the original way. And that's same thing that's happening with the MacBook Air. The traditional, I would say, it's almost like it looks like a wedge when you think about it. If you look at it from the side, it's a wedge, but now it seems like it's going for more square, like flat, just flat to the ground and just low profile. And even at the bottom, like when you start looking at the leak pictures too, there's one that shows like the bottom of it, and it shows like these two like straight lines, or I'd say like adhesive straps, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, how like normally laptops have those little pegs at the bottom, like those little balls. Like, look, if you have a MacBook, you know what I'm talking about, like the little pegs at the bottom of them. And it replaces them for strips. And I'm like, okay, I think that's cool because it keeps it more lower to the ground, which makes sense. They're trying to go for this more even lower profile laptop, which again still makes no sense because it already was a light laptop to begin with, and there's no point in making it lighter. It's just so annoying. But I think it's cool that they did that. I think going with them, it's just going to be weird though, because that was always the design language, or the way that you could tell you had an Air over the Pros, was that it was more, it had that wedge shape. But I get it was also problematic because some people have talked about how that wedge shape was pretty problematic for putting like batteries and stuff inside of it. So I think it's cool that, hey, this is the first big redesign we have for the MacBook in a while. And personally, I think it's cool that we get a new redesign. It makes sense. Now, here's where things get a bit interesting, especially when you look at the whole inside, like with the keyboard and everything. With the keyboard, this is where, as we see again, Apple seems to be going more for this uniform look with white. They've added the Touch ID sensor that looks the exact same way as the one on the iMac keyboards that just came out. But they also made the function keys a little bit bigger as well. It's one of these things where it's just like, I appreciate what they're doing. It's still dumb in some aspects because it's like, I just don't like how thin it is. And another big thing that people obviously want to talk about is the whole idea of the M2 chip, or if it will have an M2, because we honestly don't know if it's going to have the M2 or not. It makes sense that they will, especially given that, it's already the second year that or at least it'll be the first year that the M1 chip has been out, and then we'll get a refresh, same way as the iPhones get a refresh chip every single year. But I think with the M2 chip, if it makes sense that they make an M2 chip, I think it'd be cool. I think the M2 chip would probably be more of a power efficiency than actual performance, especially because they want to differentiate them from the new rumored Pro coming, which the rumored Pro model will, in theory, fix a lot of the issues people have, like adding more ports, adding maybe an HDMI and adding SD card readers, like them making it thicker to add ports again, because it makes sense for a Pro device. You want more ports because it's a professional tool. Professionals don't like having to use dongles and these kind of, I wouldn't say things that are not useful, but it's one of those things where it makes sense to have more ports as a professional. And I know on the consumer side, it makes more sense that, hey, consumers don't really care about ports, but I would still rather my laptop be able to do a lot of basic things that I can buy on another laptop, like some people use these laptops to do presentations. I don't want to have a dongle to connect my computer to, the display that's on the classroom so that I can display my project or something. I'd rather it just being able to hook up through the HDMI port, just connect the HDMI, boom, we're on our way. Because I still said this, dongle life is dumb. It's just another way to milk you dry for money. And I still think it was dumb that Apple decided to remove ports from the MacBook instead of keeping them or adding more. Another thing that people also mentioned too about this, that Jon mentioned in his video, was that he's not sure if MagSafe will make a return on the MacBook. There's no confirmation for it, but it's still rumored that, hey, there could be MagSafe coming back, especially because, MagSafe came back on the iPhones. So it coming back on the MacBooks in this case would be very interesting if they brought it back. I just don't know what they're going to do or how it's going to be implemented. It's because Jon even mentioned in his CAD renders, they don't include that because they just don't know. There's no firm confirmation that this is what's going to happen. So we're just going along with it, if you get what I'm saying. But what do I think overall? I think overall, it's nice that we're getting a refresh. I think it's cool that we're getting colors. It makes sense, especially given, what Apple's already done with the new iMac, that they're focusing more on a more colorful side for their consumer. And people have even noticed that with their, like Jon has talked about this before, like when you look at the olden times, like how Apple was back in the day, the consumer side was more colorful, more playful to show it's more consumer friendly, while the more professional tools were much more, toned down, but also like very serious, business like, and it was more toned down. And I think it's cool that Apple started to differentiate their lines. Same thing happened with the iPads. Like the iPad Air is a more colorful line because it's more for consumers. It has a lot of power, but it's more towards the consumer end, even though, yes, it still is pretty expensive. And the iPad Pros are definitely designed for more professional use or, more intensive use cases. But in my opinion, it's still interesting seeing how Apple is just going about things. Like, I just don't think it's smart to make these things thinner. I think it's just dumb. I think I don't think they'll become less durable. I think that there's going to be concerns for durability going forward, especially because with laptops, you shouldn't be trying to make these things thin and like super thin and super light. I get it. People want lighter laptops with more performance, and with ARM-based chips, it makes sense that you're able to make more lighter laptops, and you can make them thinner because they don't need as much room. But I would still rather the laptops make use of the space that they have to add more functionality to how you're going to use them, keeping those ports like USB 4 or USB-C, Thunderbolt, Ethernet, like all these ports that are very useful, like full-size HDMIs. Like, you get what I'm saying, is it only makes sense that you want to keep these things that are very useful to a lot of people. Like, you're not going to tell me you don't use USB sticks. You're not going to tell me you don't use, external mouses or USB mouses. You're not going to tell me you don't use USB keyboards. You're not going to tell me you don't use an Ethernet if you have the option with your computer. Because let's be honest, wireless is great and everything. I know we're going a little bit off topic, but it all has a point. I get that people say wireless is great, and wireless is great. It's getting better and better, but nothing will ever beat a direct signal. It's the same thing that goes with Bluetooth versus wired headphones. A direct signal will always be better than a wireless signal. Yes, a wireless signal can be better and it continues to improve, but it will never be a direct signal, because a direct signal, there is no interference. There's nothing to get in the way of it. It's a direct signal for a reason. It's point A to point B. That's it. There's no interference with wireless. Same thing goes with Bluetooth headphones versus wired headphones. It's like people don't like the fact that once the battery in your headphones is dead because it's a rechargeable battery, the headphone's pretty much going to be useful or useless in this sense. While the wired headphones, you can just fix whatever you want or change whatever you want on it, and it will always work as long as it plugs into something that it can plug into. So you get what I'm saying? It's just, with the laptops, it makes no sense to make it thin and light. Like the MacBook Air was already light to begin with. I know it sounds dumb and I sound like I'm just complaining like an old man, but I'm right in this case, because who was complaining about the weight of the MacBook Air? Nobody was complaining. Like, people complain about the freaking iPad Pro with like that it weighs like 2 pounds or not even 3 pounds, close to 3 pounds. I'm like, that's not heavy. What are you guys complaining? 3 pounds is nothing. Like, it's not a 5-pound behemoth. Like, why are you guys trying to complain over something that makes absolutely zero sense? Like I'm not even gonna lie. Apple consumers are some of the most fascinating piece of individuals I've ever met. Like, some of them complain about, fair criticisms like right to repair and things like that. And some of them are just complain about some of the most dumbest things I've ever heard. And some people just make up crap so they can complain about it. Like, in my case, I'm not really making things up. It's just general design concerns. Like, is there really a benefit to making this thing lighter? And the reality is no, there's no benefit. Like, oh, I take off like 5 grams. Whoop-de-doo. I lose 5 grams of weight. That I will not feel the difference, and it won't feel any difference because there's no point in making this thing lighter. I'd rather have more ports, more usability. It just makes more logical sense. Overall, I think it's cool. I like the colors. I like how they're differentiating the line so people know. My only concern is it going to have an M2 chip, or are they just going to be crazy and put an M1, which is going to be a big concern if they put an M1 chip again, because then you are competing with the last year's models. And so it's just like, it'll be interesting to see what they do, to be honest. It will be. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you like what you saw? Do you not like what you saw? Let me know what you guys think. If you're listening to the audio version, hit me up on my social medias to see what you guys think about today's episode. If you like it, you dislike it, let me know. But again, I really do appreciate all you guys. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you guys taking time to download this episode, to listen to it, to share it with people. It really means a lot to me that you guys constantly keep letting me know how you feel about things. I'm always going to tell you guys how it is when it comes to this stuff. I'm not just going to become a bootlicker and just tell you what everyone else says on the internet, because I'm just like, I have my own opinions. I have my own take on things, and I want to keep it that way. Yes, I will listen to commentary from other people to see how other people are thinking and how they feel about things, but I will never let my opinion be generated because of how somebody else feels. Like, my opinions are mine and mine alone, and that's how it always will be. I will never sell out. I will not be a shill for a company. I will call every company out when they do something stupid or something that I don't like. But I'll make it clear that this is my opinion and my opinion alone. If you agree, cool. If you don't agree, hey, you're allowed to have your own opinion. But I thank you guys so much for your time. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I know that I could do a Friday episode, but given everything going on, guys, I'm still super busy. Like, this school year is still not over since I still have my CA responsibilities. I have a photo shoot with a graduating senior, and I'm excited to do that. And, just getting everything ready for my internship. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But I really do appreciate you guys. You guys are great. You guys are lovely. Please continue to be safe. Have yourselves a wonderful week and weekend. Please don't do anything dumb, guys. I know the world is still weird out there, but just keep taking care of everyone around you. Continue to be mindful and respectful of those around you, because that's the only thing we can do, guys, is just being mindful, being respectful of everyone around us, and taking care of everyone and treating others the way we want to be treated. But until next time, guys, I love you guys to death. And as always, don't do anything dumb. And I love you guys to death. Bye, guys.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.